Okay. Somebody asked about surrender, letting go, and the fear that arises from that possibility. Or maybe it's the fear that arises from feeling that a letting go is imminent or already happening. But I wanted to talk a bit about the way the mind binds us up with this. So to our mind, you could say, or to the way the thoughts function, letting go and holding on are really just two sides of the same coin. They're both in relation to the one who thinks they have the power to do either one, or the one that thinks they have that sort of agency. Often I use the description of the mind being, or thought being, reflective in nature. And the reason I do that is because if you just notice the way the most basic thoughts occur, they occur as a reflection of what's immediately occurring. So even if the thought seems to be about something that happened in the past or something that happened in the future, it's often flavored by our response to what's happening right now, flavored by our some level of interpretation of the immediate experience. And when we see this, that one way of saying it is thoughts are always just a bit out of phase, or they're reflective, then we see that the inner world that's created by that reflection of a reflection of a reflection, sort of house of mirrors, can't really reach out and control or change that which they're a reflection of. And that illusion that they can starts at a young age, and it's threaded through most or all of our thought. The belief that we can make a situation different than it already is, that we can make somebody act a way that makes us more comfortable, that we can refuse to accept something and then somehow that will actually change it, right? These are the sort of fundamental assumptions that lead to this experience or sense of agency being separate from the environment or separate from all of what is happening or what's occurring. The danger in talking about this is it can be received as philosophical, and I'm not really making a philosophical claim so much as just a claim that if you look into your direct experience closely enough and clearly enough, this will become obvious that what's happening is simply happening. Just like the guided meditation this morning, you probably throughout most of that didn't have a sense of like, oh, I'm trying to change my experience, I'm in control, I need to make it different or better. It's more just merging with the experience and letting the experience lead you. That's the value of these guided meditations, or the value of natural meditation, is to show that you can completely trust experience to lead you right into what's happening. And the responses will be simple, seamless, and natural. So especially when we're approaching awakening, we're trying to find that crack in the mental armor that seems to keep the sense of a separate self cohesive and ongoing. At first, it can feel quite solid. Like we don't know how to get between thoughts. We don't know how to. And getting between thoughts isn't only a temporal thing. It's not like, you just observe thoughts and you see one thought end and the next one start. It may occur that way, but it's also just getting in between the binding of belief in thought, meaning suddenly there's just a crack somewhere. There's something that shines through, something that says the way I'm seeing reality, myself, the world, other people right now is really, I'm not seeing it fundamentally accurately. There's some distortion going on, and through thought. So yeah, it's something like trying to drive by looking backwards and holding up a mirror or something. It's going to be challenging to. I'll say it this way: it's always going to feel somewhat fundamentally dissatisfying, uncomfortable, or not quite right. So so yeah, sometimes the first chink in the armor, the first crack, is really just feeling that something not quite right with the way my mind is putting this all together. And even from there, it can be challenging to sort of get a foothold. And ideas like surrender, control, letting go, at first can feel very opaque. Opaque meaning nothing's really shining through the barrier of thought, the walls of the inner world made out of thought. Because we believe in that. We believe in control. So we believe in there's something called letting go of control. But both of those are just more versions of thought that say, well, if I do this, then what will happen, right? One of the ways you can pick up what's a thought and what's not is that when there's a thought, we immediately are led to the next thought. So if we know how it is, then we want to, or we assume we should next know what that means, where it's going to go, what I can do about it, right? So often these beliefs or these concerns around control and letting go, or surrender and life as usual, they revolve around this feeling that I want to know. I really want to know how it's going to go. So it's something like, if I surrender, what is that going to mean, right? What is that going to mean to me when I surrender? Is it going to mean I let go of this or that? Is it going to mean I don't take care of my responsibilities? What is it going to mean to me psychologically? Like, what will the world look like? And then we try to imagine like emptiness, or we try to imagine what it would be like to not have boundaries in our experience or something, right? Which is just the next thought. So you can see how there's not really a crack there. There's not really something opening beyond that thought structure. There's just the belief that I can or choose to do this or that. And then beyond that, there's implications for what I choose. And those implications I can somehow discern by thinking about it. Okay. That's just the signature of the way mind feels, right? The way logic feels. When you try to apply that logic to your true nature, it's just not even close. It's not anything like that. So if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling kind of bound into those beliefs in the way I'm describing, or the idea of surrender, the idea of holding on, the idea of letting go, just notice that that's all thought stuff. It's all thought stuff. There's something here that's completely not of that nature, not of that substance even. There's something here that just doesn't come and go. It's not contingent upon thought. It's not contingent upon understanding at all. And that's what I'm always pointing to. So you could say, if it's about surrender, it's about surrendering the need to understand about surrender, control, holding on, letting go. Sure, it's about surrendering your need to orient yourself with that apparatus. But I could also say it's not anything like surrender, because how can you surrender to what's already here? How can you surrender to what's already just the case? Now, another way to find a crack in the armor is to notice that thoughts value structure. Thoughts value content, something you can grasp onto and go, I know this, I get it, I know where I'm at, right? That's the value. That's what thoughts sort of value. Where I'm pointing doesn't have those qualities. It's not about orienting in some specific way. It's not about knowing how things are going to be or how they are right now in the usual way we talk about knowing. So where is that in your experience? That's where I want you to look. Or just notice where you're looking from. And this is why it's often a big surprise for people that there's really nothing to do here. And then that gets called surrender. But again, it's easy to get into the word games of the mind. That there's nowhere to go because you're already here. You've always been here. It's always been just this. But we've been looking past it with the grasping of the mind. We've been looking past, you can't even really look past it, but the feeling of being someone looking for something, the feeling of being a seeker, the feeling of being even a seeker of understanding, that feeling itself somewhat sort of distracts you from the wholeness, right? It constantly reinforces the sense that there's somewhere you're coming from, there's somewhere you're going, and there's someone distinct who's doing that. And that feels a certain way. It feels small. It feels, can feel inadequate. It can feel like it's struggling, but it can also feel like it's on a journey. It can feel heroic or like a warrior or something sometimes. But those are, those impressions are sort of tied to one another. You know, if we feel confident, that it's probably not very long before we kind of feel like we lost our confidence. If we feel certain about something, it's not very long before we're going to feel doubt about something. So what is beyond all of that? Or what is actually primary to all of that? It's more primary. That's where I'm pointing. So could you call it surrender? Sure. What you're doing is just not grasping for anything. Not grasping to try to be something which overlooks what you already are. Not grasping to try to understand something which sort of underscores the sense that there's some missing knowledge. There's no missing knowledge and there's no missing anything. So I often come back to a kind of stopping, which is stop seeking, stop trying to be something somewhere, stop trying to be the one that knows something, stop trying to escape from anything, stop trying to move away from what you feel like you don't want or don't want to be. We just stop the mind. And what is naturally revealed. It's the fabric of all experience. It's laced through everything you're feeling, hearing, seeing, tasting, thinking right now. So what doesn't come and go? What can you never find because it's not been lost? How do you reclaim something you've never lost? How do you enter a room you've never left? So you just stay here. And if the mind chatters on about, I don't know if this is the right or the wrong experience, then you just notice that's a thought. It's no big deal. Not a problem. Just remain here. If the thought wants to be there, let it be there. If the thought wants to leave, let it leave. Doesn't matter. Just don't move from where you've never left. And then a thought could say, well, this is uncomfortable. Something feels uncomfortable here. That's okay. We'll let that thought be there. But we don't have to contract down around it. We don't have to try to push it out. We don't have to grasp for it, wrestle with it. It's just simply noticed. But this, the wholeness of experience, isn't moved by that at all. Doesn't change. Not coming and going. Never changed. It's not contingent upon any change, movement, gain, loss, birth, death. So everything is allowed here. We're not filtering anything at all. But it's critical to notice thoughts as thoughts. And when we do, then we realize there's no problem there. We haven't gone anywhere. Now, this is something you can do with your eyes open, with your eyes closed, as a meditative practice. Doesn't really matter. There's not a rule to it because it's already here. It's already the case. Could it be that simple? Anything that's felt here is already accepted. We don't have to figure out what to do with it. Our mind might say, I have to figure out what to do with this that I'm feeling. That's the narrative. That's the thought. The feeling is just what's there. It's already there, and it's perfectly okay. There's a time for everything. There's a timing to everything. Trusting that timing knowing when it's okay to be silent through and through is a gift you can give yourself. You don't have a responsibility to leave silence for any thought, belief, situation. You can give yourself permission to remain here. Any thought that comes is already okay. Any impression that comes is already okay. Any doubt that comes is already okay. And everything passes. Anything noticed will also pass away. But there's something here that does never pass away. It doesn't arise. It doesn't depart. It's unborn. Not subject to death. Sometimes attuning to this, things will not only go quiet, but they will start to disappear. Like everything can disappear. There's no name for this, but it's okay if that happens. The internal world and the external world can disappear. Here, there's no distinction between mind and sensation and sound and forms, colors, movement. All are the same non-substance. When they all coalesce into perfect movement, perfect stillness, then movement and stillness are not two. And there's nothing left to notice anything else. Even perspective dissolves here. There's no frame of reference. There's no view. No form apart from emptiness. No emptiness apart from form. When back and front collapse, up and down collapse, before and after collapse, birth and death collapse, what is left? It's not nothing. It's not exactly something. A lot of chatting going on. You guys paying attention? Let the mind be still completely. Let everything be as it is. Exactly. Let the heart be boundless. All that is. Nothing is left out. Wherever you perceive holding, let go. But not with the mind. Let go with the heart. Wherever you perceive attachment, just notice there's nothing separate to be attached to. No distance. Nothing rustling, nothing moving. What is this? There's nothing we have to relinquish here. There's nothing we have to find. We're not going anywhere. And we didn't come from somewhere. What is truer than all of those perspectives? What is so close that close loses all meaning? What is so real that real loses all meaning? Now, this pointing, the first half of the talk, has an expansion quality to it, an expansive quality to it. But it's not the whole story. It is the whole story, but it's also got chapters. So while never leaving this, while never leaving home, we can also go on this journey into the inner world that holds an apparent past and experiences and conditioning. And we can come into contact with the most contracted, dense places, never forgetting and never leaving this expansion, this unborn. Because the born is the unborn. The physical, the nervous system, the emotion body has never left the totality. Has never left the empty nature, the unborn nature. What does it feel like to find that infinite, spacious knowing as one sensation in your face, in your jaw? Where's that tightness? Where's the body holding tension? Go right there. Be the unmoving expansion, the ineffable, but imminent, more real than real. And that sensation. Scale is a thought. Separation, distinction is a thought. So the sensation, the contraction, the density in the face, the jaw, the neck, the head, or anywhere else, the chest, the gut, is none other than the unmoving, unborn, impossibly light, free of all entanglements. Can you hold these two simultaneously? Can you hold the sorrow of letting go of innocence, letting go of childhood, letting go of loved ones, letting go of identity? Where is that felt? Find it. Find that dense space where the body's encoded that. Is there a distinction between that quality of experience that has a relative location and a relative story, and the place we've never left, the home, the most primary position, which accommodates all positions? Are contraction and expansion really two? Are the physical and the spacious really two? Is the mind with a big M, capital M, and form, physicality, grief, shame, fear, are they really two? What if there's no boundary? What if the relative physicality and narrative that is you is also none other than the place before birth and after death, the placeless place that's not touched by time or space or thought? What would be the implications? It means we don't have to sacrifice anything. The full experience is already here. The interpenetration of form and emptiness is already here. We don't have to cultivate it. It's shining brilliantly right now. What happens when we zoom our attention into a density somewhere in the body, somewhere that feels like a body space, behind the eyes, in the forehead, and the shoulders, maybe in the belly, in the gut. When we zoom our attention in deeply, fully, with reckless abandon, right into the dense place, the heavy place, the shadow place, we find a sort of expansion. We find where expansion and contraction are not two. And we can just revel in that experience, enjoy it, revere it. Give yourself permission to go everywhere, to go anywhere, including into the deep shadow. We carry around the perfect practice container for this, the body. The body always tells the truth. So just feel into it. Don't turn it into a story or a narrative. Plug it into the patchwork of identities. Rather, go right there, deeply within, to the center, and then to the center of the center, and then to where there is no center, because the center is everywhere. And keep going. The body will show you where to go. We explore all these facets of sensation, and we never leave the unborn. This is both transcendent and somatic work. So nothing is left out and no decisions need to be made. We're called inward and outward at the same time, and that's perfectly accommodated. Not a problem. If there's movement, energetic movement, kundalini, tremoring of the body, any of that comes up, same thing. Go right into that movement. Let your attention just move inward, inward, inward. Embrace it. The body knows how to move, but we have an opportunity to just zoom in until we find infinity again and again and again. So is this a technique? Well, I don't know, but the answer is simple. Allow yourself to go wherever you're called, whether it's into a dense experience, a transcendent experience, an emotion, sensation. You won't even have to label. Just be willing to go and keep going. Fully penetrating all that is and all that is not. Doesn't matter how dense or heavy or how long it's been there, how dark, how confusing. you can still go there with willingness, with love for experience, appearance. Once you taste this sort of exploration, things get very simple. There's not much doubt, because there's only this pure raw experience, this appearance. Well, what more do you need? What do you need to learn? Do you need to learn about reality when you're completely engulfed in it? So give yourself permission to go anywhere. And don't worry too much about those ghosts that say, don't go there, don't go there. Turns out to be just fine to go there. So when we hesitate, hold back, listen to the thoughts, and we get ourselves spun up. But you have every right to feel every part of yourself. And then where there are no boundaries, to feel beyond the confines of self, to feel these impossible to describe places, spaces, experience, and paradoxical, where the most dense is the most expanded. Find that place. You'll never be disappointed.
Angelo, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, we're done. We can ding.
Okay.